For more on this, I'm now joined by our international affairs editor, Armen Georgian. Armen, some countries are getting US sanctions waivers for importing oil from Iran. Talk us through that list.
Yeah, well, there's several European countries actually that rely on Iranian oil, or at least partly rely on them. If we look at the biggest customers of Iranian oil, we didn't have time to show you all the countries. There are other countries at the top of the list like China and India. But if we start with the biggest customer in Europe, it's actually Italy. Then we have Japan just behind Italy, the UAE, Spain, France and Greece. Now, it's interesting, the countries that have actually been granted waivers by the Trump administration are Italy, which is logical in a way, given that it is the biggest European importer of Iranian oil. But Greece was also given a waiver, which is way behind. You've got two other countries, two EU countries, Spain and France, which are more dependent on Iranian oil than Greece, and yet these two countries, Spain and France, did not get a waiver. So it's interesting to think about why that's happened. One point of speculation is that France is one of the EU3 with Britain and Germany that negotiated the nuclear accord, which Donald Trump so dislikes. And of course, France was one of those countries that made a statement a couple of days ago regretting the reimposition of US sanctions. So if you want to read a political motive into why France was not spared while Greece was spared, you can perhaps see the fact that France was in the vanguard of those countries in favor of maintaining the Iranian nuclear accord.
Now, these sanctions, what impact are they likely to have in Iran?
Well, they've already had an impact. There was a round imposed in August. We've seen severe degradation in various areas. So the value of the national currency has fallen this year quite drastically. Inflation is now up to 16%. Oil exports are down by 1/3 since April. And an interesting other point is the number of strikes and protests are increasing. And arguably, Claire, this is an important part of the US strategy, which is to try to orchestrate discontent from below, from the population, and as a way of destabilizing the Iranian leadership. If that's indeed the tactic, then it sort of makes a mockery in a way of what Mike Pompeo said, which is that the goal here is to hurt the Iranian regime, not the people. We want the leadership to suffer, not the people. But the effect of these various measures clearly shows that the Iranian people are being targeted, and particularly if you look at things like medicines, which are in short supply, that situation is likely to get worse. The fact that, as I said, this number of strikes and protests is increasing, that suggests that the Iranian people are being used as an instrument by the US in service of a long-term goal, which is to destabilize the Iranian government.